Hi everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Nick Cosgrove and I'm back with this week's No Filter Q&A. This is the episode where I answer all questions related to diet, training, and supplementation that I've received over the last 7 days from our in-house clients, online clients, as well as a few of our online followers. Remember, if you have any questions related to your nutritional plan, workout program, supplements you are currently taking, not taking, or considering taking, please feel free to email me those questions at nick@foreverfitperformance.com, or you can DM me your questions on my Instagram at fitcosgrove_. All right, let's get started with this week's no filter Q&A with question number 1. Nick, should I follow the same diet on the days I train versus the days that I don't train? Good question. And it's a question I actually get a lot, especially from my online clients who I design the customized nutritional plans for. And the answer is simple. Keep your diet the same. Okay. And there's a few reasons why I recommend keeping your diet the same. For one, the body likes consistency. Okay. So if you're just increasing your calories on the days that you work out because you're burning more calories, well, what's going to happen on the days that you don't work out and you start taking in less calories? Well, a few things are going to happen. One is that your body's not going to know when it's going to be fed next because you're so inconsistent with your eating patterns, right? Like I said, the body likes consistency. So if your body doesn't know when it's going to get fed next, you do slowly start to slow down your metabolism, which is not good. Okay. That can lead to increase of fat gain. Two is that whatever you do, let's say on Monday, is going to have an impact on what you do on Tuesday. So if your rest day is on Monday and then you go to the gym on Tuesday, but you haven't have all been eating all your meals on Monday, that's going to impact your workout. It's going to impact the amount of weight you lift. It's going to impact your intensity in the gym. What's that going to do? Well, that's going to impact your results or lack of results. So it's like a chain reaction. So that's why I tell clients it's important to stay on the diet 7 days a week. Yeah, you can have a cheat meal. And when you have your cheat meal, take out one of your meals. Say you're on a 6 meal plan, you have a cheat meal on a Sunday, take out meal 5 or meal 6 and replace it with a cheat meal. But make sure you're getting the other 4 or 5 meals in your diet. Okay, that's one thing I always tell all my clients. The body needs consistency. It doesn't just like consistency, it needs consistency. So you need to be consistent with your workouts. You need to be consistent with your training. You need to be consistent with your diet. You need to be consistent with your sleep. You need to be consistent with your hydration. All this is crucial. And it's something that needs to be done day in, day out, day in, day out. Okay. So I wouldn't recommend this sporadic eating schedule of being dialed in on your diet on the days you train and then on the days that you don't train, having 1 or 2 meals. Because as I said, that will impact the next day and the day after that. Okay. So it all translates into your results. Okay. Or lack of results. So I don't recommend eating or consuming, I should say, fewer calories just because you're not burning as many calories. If you're following a clean, customized nutritional plan that's designed specifically for you and the amount of times that you're in the gym, like whenever I work with someone online and I design their customized nutritional plan, one of the first questions I ask them is, how many days a week are you training in the gym? If their answer is 3 days a week, I'll take that into consideration when I'm putting together their diet because I might not give them as many calories on a day-to-day basis as I would for someone who's in the gym 6 days a week. Okay. But I still tell them I need you to eat the exact same on the days you're training versus the days that you're not training. Okay. So that's my recommendation. Keep your diet the same, keep it consistent. Consistency really does pay off long term when it comes to establishing a better routine for yourself, creating a better looking physique, adding more muscle, losing more fat, and feeling more healthy and fit overall. All right. Next question. Nick, how can I get rid of cellulite in my lower body without surgery? A good question. Another good question. It's a question I've had before. It's a very common question I get from a lot of women. And the answer will really depend on a few factors. Okay, so let's say you are someone who has never been to the gym before and now you have cellulite. Just by you going to the gym and training with weights on a regular basis, that's actually going to help. It's going to help tighten up that area. Now, how much? Well, that will depend on a few factors as well. One will be your age, one will be how bad the cellulite is, and what will be your overall fitness level, right? Because if you're someone that has no physical limitations or no injuries and you're brand new to the gym, the sky's the limit. You can keep building on muscle and really focusing on zoning in on that area and tightening up that area. Okay. Another thing you have to take into consideration is your diet. This is key. If your diet is shit and you've got cellulite, don't even think about surgery until you clean up that diet. Okay. Because a lot of times when people are looking at cellulite, yes, genetics play a role. Yes, gender plays a role. yes, lifestyle plays a role, but diet is crucial. Okay. So it's really important to look at your diet and say, am I doing everything I possibly can in the kitchen? If you're unfamiliar with dietary nutrition and you really don't know, this is where it comes into play to working with an experienced, knowledgeable coach that can design a customized nutritional plan specifically for you and your goals. Okay. So if you have your diet dialed in and you have your training dialed in and you've been training for 5 or 6 years, yet you still have cellulite, in that case, my recommendation is to go down the surgery route. Okay. Now, there are different types of surgeries out there. I'm not very well versed in those surgeries, but I've had clients do those surgeries. Okay. And they do work. But I'll tell you what, the surgeries that work best are when done on people who don't have that much cellulite to lose. And the people who don't have much cellulite to lose are the people who have dialed in their diet and are doing their training. Okay. Unfortunately, as I mentioned last week on the channel, our genetics are our genetics. So sometimes people are predisposed to get cellulite, especially women. Men get cellulite as well, but women typically get more cellulite in the glutes, hamstrings area, sometimes in the midsection as well. But those are usually the troubled spots for most women. It's usually the lower body, right? So my recommendation is make sure that your training is in check, make sure that your diet is in check. And if you've been doing that day in, day out, not just for a year, but at least for 5, 6 years, and you still have some cellulite, you might want to go down the surgery route. Okay. But just remember, the lowest amount of cellulite you have, the least amount of cellulite that you're carrying, the better off your results will be with these surgeries. Okay. Because if you go into these surgeries and you have lots of cellulite, it's not going to be a miracle transformation. I've seen it. And you don't really notice that much of a difference. So if you do everything you can naturally first with your diet and your training and day in, day out, again, consistency, then that's when I recommend doing the surgery. Okay. It's the same thing I tell people who ask me about liposuction or people who ask me about Ozempic. And I say, you really haven't tapped out your natural resources. And how do I know this? Well, because I've been working with you and I know you're not giving it your all in the gym. I know you're not giving it all in the kitchen. So before you start looking for these quick fixes like Ozempic, liposuction, or any surgery for that matter that's going to help, I'm not saying don't do them, but I'm saying do everything you possibly can naturally first before you go down that road. Okay. And it's the same thing I tell clients who ask me about anabolic steroids. I say, you can make that decision. You're an adult. If you want to go use anabolic steroids, that's your decision. I'm not going to try to tell you not to. I'm not going to try to tell you to do it. I'm just going to say, try to do everything to the best of your ability naturally first for a long period of time, as in 5 to 6 years, not 5 to 6 months or 5 to 6 days. And then, and only then, start looking down the road of, okay, maybe I do want to use a little bit of go on a steroid cycle, or maybe I do want to use Ozempic, or maybe I do want to go to a surgery, whatever it is. But I'm telling you, in my opinion, most people don't reach their natural potential because they're just not willing to put in the work and the time. Okay. All right. Next question. Okay. Nick, what do you think about weighted vests? Not a fan of them. I honestly have always felt like weighted vests are a bit of a fad. Uh, Here's the thing with weighted vests. I don't feel that weighted vests distribute weight properly across a person's body. Okay. So even if you have one of those vests that have the same amount of weight on the front and back, I still feel like when you're working out with a weighted vest, that weight that's distributed, it fluctuates throughout. So if you're doing, let's say, push-ups, or let's say you're doing seated rows, depending on the plane of motion you're using, that weight shifts and it doesn't shift evenly, right? Just because it's on your body doesn't mean that it shifts evenly, especially when you're doing resistance training, because you're doing so many different planes of motions that vest is going to move around, and it puts unnecessary strain, in my opinion, on areas like your scapula, your rhomboids, your rotator cuffs. So I really don't feel that it offers any benefits. I know a lot of people say, well, it's going to help build more muscle. And I don't really see how, because you're just putting unnecessary weight on your body. Okay. And that puts a lot of strain, not just on your joints, but also is going to put a lot of strain on your tendons and your ligaments as well. So I don't recommend the weighted vests. I really do think it's a fad. I've never tried one myself, but I don't recommend using them. I mean, if you're resistance training, you're already going to have the added resistance from the weight. And the great thing with resistance training, when you're doing, let's say, a set of seated rows, that set's only going to last for 30 to 45 seconds. And then you get a break. You're wearing a weighted vest throughout your entire workout, or even for 15, 20 minutes. In my opinion, that's too much weight being put on the body for a prolonged period of time. And that's why I don't like that. I don't like that. I like doing sets. I like doing reps. I may like to make sure that once you've done a set, You allow your body to rest, not too long, but go back when you're about 70% recovered. I've talked about that in the past. And then do it again, rest, do it again. I find that's the best way to create muscle growth. And really, it's the best way to create optimal strength. These weighted vests and these weighted ankle weights, I've always been against them because I feel like they do put too much pressure on the joints, ligaments, and tendons, and it can lead to potential injury. All right. Okay. Nick, should you always prioritize form over weight? I feel that it's hard to increase my weight without sacrificing a bit of my form. Another good question. Okay, so that's actually a really good question, and something I talk about with clients in the gym quite a bit. So I always tell clients form and technique come first, always. Okay. Another thing I tell clients, the weight you're lifting is completely irrelevant as long as it's challenging. Okay. Now, what I mean by challenging is that you can get that 10 to 15 rep range, but it's not going to be easy. Like you might get those first 10, no problem. But then when you start to get to 12, it's a struggle. When you start to get to 13, it's even harder. 14, it's almost impossible. And 15, you might need a spotter to help you get that extra rep out. That's what I'm looking for on my sets. Now, if form starts to go, okay, this is the rule that I use with clients on the floor. If I'm trying to hit a PR with a client, a personal record of a client, and we're going for, let's say, a squat at 315, and we're going to try to go for 10 reps, all right? I bring this up because I had a client on Friday do this with me. Never squatted 315 before, but we're going for 10 reps. So that client has started squatted 295 for 12, 15 reps, but 10 pounds increase, 15-pound increase can make a big difference when you're lifting that much weight. So my goal is we're going to get 10 reps. Okay. If at least 8 or 9 of those reps are perfect form, and that last rep requires a bit of my assistance, and it's not the perfect clean technique, I'm okay with that. Okay. What I'm not okay with is if from rep 1 and rep 2, we're doing a squat that looks like a good morning, or we're using momentum and we're bouncing, or we're lacking range of motion. That's not good. Okay. So if your form and technique are shit from rep number 1, the weight's too heavy. But there's something to be said about cheat reps. And if those last 2 or 3 reps are not perfect, now you're not endangering yourself. You're not swinging. You're not doing anything that's going to really hurt your lower back or dislocate a shoulder or tear a quad. As long as your form is 80% perfect on those last 2 or 3 reps, we're good. Okay. If it's not a perfect rep though, and 20% of that rep is, oh yeah, you leaned a little forward, or you used a little bit of momentum there, or you didn't go all the way down, I'm okay with that because they were pushing a new weight, and those at 80% of the set was perfect. Okay. But that's really, in my opinion, that's how most people advance and increase their weight in the gym. Because if you try to keep every rep perfect every single time, you're gonna hit a plateau. It's really hard to do that. So whenever I'm trying to increase my weight on a certain exercise, I'm okay with 1 or 2 reps not looking the prettiest. Even if I'm using a little bit of assistance from my synergist muscle groups, I'm okay with that as long as it's not from the very beginning. And as long as I'm progressing, if I'm still doing that, that terrible, or not terrible, but if I'm not doing perfect technique on those last 2 or 3 reps, and that's been going on for 3 or 4 months, well, obviously that weight's too heavy for me. But over time, what happens with most people, those last 2 or 3 reps get better and better. And now they can do 10 to 15 reps of perfect form with a new weight. Okay. So I don't believe that every single rep has to be perfect. I really don't. But when you're trying to hit a new PR, it's very important to try your best to keep at least 80% of the set perfect form and technique. And maybe, like I said, those last 2 or 3 reps, they might not be the best. They might look a little sloppy. You might need a spotter, but that's how you're going to progress in the gym. Just remember, I'm not telling you to have terrible form. I'm still telling you to make sure you're trying your best to keep the reps controlled. It's very important to control those weights. Okay. So I'm not advocating sloppy reps here. I'm just saying to move ahead and to progress in your training and increase the weight. Sometimes a cheat rep is necessary. Okay. Okay. Nick, is CrossFit a safe and effective workout? I'm thinking about joining a CrossFit gym that's across from my work, but just wanted to know your thoughts on this type of workout. You must be new to following me because I've talked about CrossFit for years. And I think a lot of people think that I bash CrossFit. Maybe I do to some degree, but listen, I don't have anything against CrossFit, but I do have something against people constantly injuring themselves with exercises that, in my opinion, are not functional. I had someone call me out and say, well, how's a deadlift not functional? I'm like, listen, I don't find that a deadlift offers any more benefit than doing a hyperextension. Okay. And a hyperextension, in my opinion, works the exact same area, the lumbar region, the lower back, and is a lot more safe on the spinal discs, right? So why would I take the more dangerous exercises that offer more risk than benefit versus the exercises that will work the same muscle group and I'll get the benefits without the risks? To me, that's a no-brainer. So when you talk about CrossFit, and I mean, don't take my word for it. You can just do a simple Google search on CrossFit injuries, and I'm sure thousands of videos will come up. Okay. And the reason why people get injured doing CrossFit is because a lot of these exercises, a lot of them are technical exercises that require a lot of instruction. And there are a lot of ballistic movements. So they're not controlled repetitions. Okay. And this is what I've said with CrossFit. I'm a firm believer that if someone is doing CrossFit, they should have a coach with them, someone who is very knowledgeable, very experienced, and can really keep an eye on what they're doing, because the exercises that are performed in CrossFit, as I said, they're very technical. They require a lot of muscle groups, right? You're talking like clean and jerks. You're talking deadlifts with very heavy weight. People are doing 1 rep maxes in the squat rack. These are all very dangerous exercises, right? Or even dangerous rep ranges. So I'm not a fan of CrossFit. I've never been a fan of CrossFit. And yeah, I do make fun of it from time to time because I've never seen the point of going to the gym and trying to do these exercises that I feel don't really help build a physique. I mean, you're going to get some results with any weight you lift. Yes, of course. But I really don't feel that they allow you to sculpt the body like bodybuilding does, right? If I want to build my chest, if I want to build my triceps, if I want to define my shoulders, if I want to add more striations to my quads and my glutes, bodybuilding workouts allow me to do that. CrossFit workouts do not allow me to do that. Okay. So if you want to do CrossFit, I say do it, but at the same time, be very careful. And if you are joining a CrossFit gym, just make sure that the instructors are watching and the instructors are correcting your form and technique. Because I've seen a lot of these CrossFit gyms where the instructors are not doing that. And if you have one instructor for, let's say, 40 clients, there's no way, I've talked about this in the past, that one instructor can properly correct your form and technique. Okay, so I'm not going to say don't do it. Do I think it's a good workout? Honestly, no, I don't. That again is my personal opinion, though. I don't think it's a good workout. Every single person I've met that does CrossFit has always had some type of injury, whether it's a serious injury or a small injury that's just lingering or a chronic injury that's continuous for years on end. I don't want any part of that. I don't want to be injured. And knock on wood, I haven't had a serious injury my entire career doing bodybuilding. And I honestly don't know anyone who's been following bodybuilding splits that has had a serious injury or setback in the gym. Okay. So that's my opinion. I wouldn't do CrossFit. You honestly couldn't pay me to do CrossFit. I just wouldn't do it. I understand why people like it. I understand that people like the group mentality of working together. They have the CrossFit games and trying to hit new PRs in the gym. It's just something that I don't feel offers much benefits when it comes to building a well-rounded physique and improving your overall health and fitness. Okay. Nick, how important is protein timing for muscle growth? Does the timing of protein intake really make a difference, or is total daily intake more important? Yeah, good question again. And it's a question, I had a similar question to this. I think it was last week on the channel. And in my opinion, protein timing is completely irrelevant. The whole thing about protein timing and protein synthesis, in my opinion, this came from the supplement industry, these supplement companies that were trying to promote their protein shakes back in the day and saying, as soon as you're done to work out, you need to chug a protein shake or your body's going to go into a catabolic state and you're going to lose all this muscle. Not true. Okay. There are plenty of times where I'll do a workout and I won't even have my post-workout meal for 2 or 3 hours. I don't lose muscle. I don't have any negative effects. The only negative effect I might have is I get a little bit more hungry because I feel like after I train, I am fairly hungry. So I'd like to eat within a 1 or 2 hour window if I can. But if I can't, I'm not worried about it. It's not like, oh my God, I'm going to lose all this muscle. Like I mentioned in the first question, look at the overall picture. So in this case, look at your overall, like you said, your daily intake. Okay. So if there's 24 hours in a day and you're following a 6 meal day split, as long as you get all 6 of those meals in that 24-hour window, in my opinion, you're good. Okay, so let's say your protein intake is 200 grams for that day. As long as you get those 200 grams in that day, you're good because then you're going to get 200 grams in the next day, the day after that, the day after that. It comes back down to the consistency factor. So just because you don't get your protein intake in as soon as you finish your last set on the bench press Doesn't mean you're going to lose a whole bunch of muscle. Doesn't mean you're going to lose any muscle at all. The body doesn't work like that. Now, if you do a workout and you go for, 12 hours and you don't eat, well, yeah, you're probably going to go into a catabolic state because now your body is searching for protein. Okay. So it is good to feed the body, but if you're following a diet plan that you're eating every 3 to 4 hours, you're fine. You're really fine. You're okay. So that comes back down to that bro science that the supplement companies were pushing back in the 90s, early 2000s, and it's a bunch of BS. It really is. So it's something that I wouldn't follow or believe with a grain of salt. I don't take any, when it comes to bro science, I just roll my eyes and look the other way because I look for science. I always look for the science backing this. If I don't see science, I don't buy it. And I don't mean science that's from the supplement companies. I mean actual science. And what science shows us is as long as you're feeding the muscles in a period of time, in this case, 24 hours, you're good. Okay. So protein timing is irrelevant. Okay. What I will say though, and I've talked about this in the past, just to have better workouts, my recommendation is your pre-workout meal should be lean proteins and carbohydrates. Try to avoid the fats. That's not necessarily for muscle or for protein synthesis reasons or for muscle building purposes. That's just so you have a good workout. Because if you have load up on fats pre-workout, you'll find that most people anyway, they find that because fats take longer to digest, it's kind of harder to get through your workout. You might feel a little bit more lethargic, a little more sluggish, a little more bloated because your body's trying to digest those fats. So that's my only recommendation is to consume your fats post-workout versus pre-workout, but that's it. Okay. But it has nothing to do with you gaining or losing muscle. It's just so that you have the best possible workout you can. Okay. 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 Nick, how crucial are rest days for muscle recovery? Um, I talked about overtraining a few weeks ago on the channel and how I really don't believe that most people get anywhere close to overtraining. Okay. I did to mention that I do believe in overtraining, but in my opinion, most people don't get anywhere close to achieving to the point of overtraining. Okay. Well, in fact, most people undertrain. So rest days are important. Yeah. But I think rest days are more important for mental burnout than physical burnout. And this goes if you're following a proper training program where you're working one muscle group or two muscle groups in one workout and you're resting each muscle group for at least a week. So I've talked about if you're following, let's say, a 5-day split where you're doing chest one day, back one day, shoulders one day, arms one day, legs one day, take 2 rest days off and repeat, right? You're only working one muscle group once a week. So that's giving it a full 6-7 days of rest before you hit it again, right? And that to me is a great way to train because you're still training 5, maybe even 6 days a week if you change up your split and you're not overtraining. What I find people do is if they overtrain is if they're doing the same muscle groups day in, day out, or someone who, let's say, bench presses 3 or 4 times a week, that to me is overtraining. But if you're someone who goes to the gym every day and you're following a good training split where you're working, like I said, one muscle group each day or 2 muscle groups each day, you should be okay. But what does happen sometimes is people get burnt out mentally. It can be very difficult psychologically going to the gym day in and day out and training, right? Going to the same gym. I know for myself personally, I'm in my gym every day, whether I'm working or training. So sometimes it's like, okay, I need a change of atmosphere here. And that's when I take a day off. Right. I'm like, I just don't want to be in the gym today. So I'm not going to train. Not because I physically can't do it, just because mentally I don't want to do it. And that's fine. Because that does happen, right? Mental burnout happens all the time, whether it's in the gym or whether it's at the office, like, it can happen. So it's important to give your mind that bit of break, that mental clarity, right? So rest days are important in that case. But I have talked about that if you don't feel you need a rest day and you feel good, and you're following a properly training program, why take the rest day? Okay. It's not as important as a lot of these fitness experts say, and they put all this emphasis on you need to take a rest day. If you feel you don't need a rest day, don't take a rest day. If you feel like, hey, you know what? I'm sleeping well, I'm training great in the gym, I'm eating well, don't take a rest day. Take the rest day when you feel you need it, whether it's mentally or physically. That's when you take it. If it helps to have a scheduled rest day for you, do it. But I've never had a scheduled rest day. I've always just listened to my body. If I'm physically tired, I'll take it. If I'm mentally tired, I'll take it. If I feel great mentally and physically, I'll train. And that just comes down to experience too, because the more that you train in the gym, you become more in tune with your body. So you can listen to your body. Because, my body's telling me to back off today, or mentally, I know this is not going to be a good workout. I've got too much going on today. I'm very stressed out. I need to take the day to focus on my work or focus on my relationships or whatever it is, then take the day off. Okay. But I really don't think anyone is, I shouldn't say anyone, because there are some people out there who are crazy when it comes to training. But really, in my opinion, I don't think anyone's that I've met is close to overtraining. Okay. So take that what you will. Take a rest day if you need it. You don't need it, don't take it. Okay. A few more questions. Nick, how much does age impact muscle ability? Oh, sorry. I can't really read this question. 1 second. Okay. Nick, how much does age impact muscle ability to build muscle? And do you recommend older people such as myself, who is 55, train differently than younger people in their 20s? Okay, so I think what you're asking is, do I think that people that as you get older, it becomes more challenging to put on muscle? To some degree, yes, because as we get older, I mean, and you take men, for example, and there's studies that show that after the age of 30, men lose 2% of their testosterone per year. With that being said, those studies are done on the average sedentary male. Okay. So if you're someone who works out regularly, male or female, and you've been working out day in, day out for 20, 30 years, and now you're in your 50s, I would throw all those studies out the window. Those studies don't apply to you. Okay. It's like when people talk about the BMI, body mass index. I'm like, listen, if you train with weights, that doesn't apply to you. Okay. Body mass index, for those that don't know, they take a calculation based on your height and your weight, and they'll tell you if you're obese, morbidly obese, underweight, etc. Problem with that test is if you're someone like me who's 5'10", 220 pounds, I'm considered morbidly obese considered to the BMI. I don't think I'm morbidly obese. Okay. So that test doesn't apply to me. Okay. Does it apply to the average sedentary person? Sure, of course, because they're not doing anything else. So yeah, that test applies. So these generic formulas I would ignore if you're someone who lifts weights regularly. Same thing with these people who say, well, as you get older, it gets harder. Not necessarily. Not if you're someone who has been in the gym for the past 20, 30 years. Listen, I train people. I talked about two of my clients a few weeks ago. I trained them, they're in their 60s. These guys are knocking out 72 sets in 60 minutes. They're training circles around people in their 20s, but they've been training for since they were in their early 30s, late 20s. That's 30 years, 30 plus years of training. So of course their bodies are conditioned for it. So why would you compare them to some 60-year-old who's never been to the gym, who's got a big belly, or who has all these health issues that are caused by living a sedentary lifestyle? So I don't think that rule applies to everyone. Now, if you're someone who is, again, new to the gym, are new to working out, and you're in your 50s, yeah, it's going to be a bit of an uphill battle. It will, because you have more wear and tear in your joints and your ligaments. And because you haven't been weight training, your muscles have not been supporting those joints and ligaments. So you're going to be more at risk for tendonitis, arthritis, bursitis, right? All these issues that people have as they get older who have not been exercising regularly. Okay. So to answer your question, would I train a 55-year-old the same way I would train, let's say, a 25-year-old? If both have been training in the gym for a long period of time, of course. In some cases, I'll train a 55-year-old more intensely than I'll train a 25-year-old, because the 55-year-old has been training with me for the past 20 years, where the 25-year-old is maybe only training for 1 or 2 years. But if you're both people are brand new to the gym, I'll actually train them the exact same. The 25-year-old might respond more quickly to the weights, more quickly to the results, because they have age on their side. But that doesn't mean that the 55-year-old is not going to achieve the same results. Okay. So again, this will really depend on your level of fitness, any physical limitations you may have, and any current or past injuries that you have, or health issues. Okay. So it's not a one size fits all answer, but I get kind of irritated when I hear people talk about age being a deciding factor when it comes to building muscle and transforming your physique, only because I see time and time again, people I work with, God, I would say 50% of my roster are over the age of 55. And they've been training with me for the past 20 years. So they started in their early 30s, a lot of these people. And they're like, the amount of times they're in the gym 5 days a week, they're following a clean diet, they're doing 72 sets in a workout. they're squatting 315. Like the guy I was talking about earlier on Friday, that's one of my clients who's 62 and he's squatting 315 pounds. He's fine. No knee braces, no belt, felt good. So age is what you make of it. And if you're someone who has lived a fairly sedentary lifestyle and now you're getting into your late 50s, early 60s, yeah, you're going to have an uphill battle. It's not impossible, but it doesn't mean that you give up and sorry, but train like a pussy. You still train. Okay. You just make sure that you train methodically, that you approach each workout with intelligence. And if you don't know what you're doing, hire a personal trainer. Because if you don't hire a personal trainer, you don't know what you're doing, there's a very good chance that you're going to get injured, or you're just not going to see results and you'll get discouraged and then you won't come back to the gym. Great investment. Hiring a personal trainer, in my opinion, if you have no clue what you're doing, or you know that you're not going to hold yourself accountable for going to the gym, is the best ROI that you're ever going to make on your health. All right. Okay. Two more questions. Nick, what role does mindset play in achieving physique transformation? Interesting question. I would say mindset plays 90%. Mental resilience is crucial when it comes to transforming your physique because there are going to be times where you want to quit. There are going to be times where you hit a plateau. There are going to be times where you are irritated because you're in a caloric deficit for a few days on the diet. Are there going to be times where you're tired because you're not sleeping properly because you're so sore from the gym? There's going to be times where you don't want to go to the gym. There's going to be times that you're going to want to go out drinking with your friends. And that all comes down to mental resilience, right? So I would say the mind is 90%. And that's the same thing I tell my clients in the gym. I say everything we're doing right now is 90% mental. It's only 10% physical. And that's what really separates the people who stay with it versus the people that don't up here. The people who go into the gym day in, day out and know that they have to do this, okay? They have to, never mind just for the aesthetics purpose, but just for their overall health and fitness. They have to do this. Those are the people who are mentally stronger than the people that don't, are the people that don't last. Those people are not as mentally strong. And I'm not bashing those people. I'm just saying they're not as mentally strong. They give up too easily, right? They don't have that mental fortitude to push them and keep going. Like if I look at my schedule and I know I start at 6 a.m. and I don't finish till 8 p.m. at night, I know, hey, you know what? I got to get a workout in this day. I'll wake up at 4:15 and go to the gym for 5 and get my workout at 5 a.m. I'll do it. I'll be like, well, I got a long day today at work, so just won't train. If I use that mentality, then I would never train because every day I have a long day at work, right? And I'm not the only person that thinks like that. There's lots of people because I tell you, when I go to my gym at 6 a.m., it's packed. There's a lot of people, and my gym's not the only gym that's packed at 6 a.m. There's a lot of people that are fitting their workout at 6 in the morning because they've got a full day ahead with work, family obligations, whatever it is. So it's all mental. And when I say it's 90% mental and 10% physical, it really is because, yeah, you need to make sure that you're lifting the weights. There's the physical part for sure. Okay. But just to show up to the gym, that fight in your head of I'd rather stay in bed than go to the gym, or I'd rather go have that burger and fries than have chicken and rice, right? That right there is all up here. And that's mental resilience. And, I've talked about in the past where people have even made fun of me and said, oh, you're a gym bro. Okay. But everything that I've learned in bodybuilding, everything I've learned when it comes to being disciplined, work ethic, right? Putting in the work to get the results, that's translated to everything I've done in my personal life, whether it be financially or with my real estate. I give all credit to bodybuilding, all of it. Okay. Because bodybuilding has taught me that if I want to achieve results with my physique, I have to put in the time. I have to put in the work. There is no shortcut. I take that very same approach to my business, to my finances, to my real estate. Okay. So you can call me a gym bro all you like. That's fine by me, but this gym bro is doing pretty well in life. Okay. And this gym bro owes all the success that I've been able to achieve in life to bodybuilding. Okay. To really what started off as wanting to transform my physique and impress the girls now has transformed into now wanting to buy more real estate, wanting to invest in further business ventures, wanting to expand and scale my business. Okay. So I give a lot of credit to that. And so people who go to the gym, I have a lot of respect for them because I know it's not easy. And I know it's even more difficult for people who do deal with physical limitations. I have a client who has MS, and that client still shows up 5 days a week in the gym. You know how difficult it is for someone with MS, especially when they're not feeling the best or they're going through treatments and they feel like complete crap for them to get to the gym. And I think, Jesus, if that person can get to the gym, what the hell's my excuse? Right. So I look at people like that and they inspire me. And I'm like, oh my God, I have no excuse. Okay. I have another client who actually amazes me going through chemotherapy treatments right now, going through chemotherapy treatments, still comes to the gym, still trains with me. We'll even do a leg workout. And a few weeks ago, had to go to the washroom, super sick, going through chemo, comes back. Let's keep going. When I look at people like that, that to me is mental resilience. And like I said, I respect those people. And those are the people that inspire me to keep going and keep pushing myself on the days that I don't want to train. Okay. On the days that I don't want to work out. So I'm like, I have no excuse when I look at people like that. So I would say that I know I say it's 90-10, 90% mental, 10% physical, but really when it comes down to it, it's all mental. And if you're mentally strong, you'll be able to get through this. If you're mentally strong, you'll be able to transform your physique and improve your health, right? But you have to be strong up here to make it translate exterior out here. All right. Okay. Last question. Nick, in your opinion, is it better to focus on short-term goals or long-term sustainability when going to the gym? Both. Both are important. It's important to set both short-term goals and long-term goals. With personal training, we always tell people you want to set SMART goals, right? Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, timely goals. And that is so true because if you're constantly just setting short-term goals, once you achieve those goals, what's next? If you don't have a long-term vision, do you stop and say, hey, you know what? I wanted to lose 10 pounds. I lost 10 pounds. That's it. I'm out the gym. Don't need to do anymore. I can go back to following a shitty diet. And then when I put on those 10 pounds again, I'll just go back to the gym and get back on it. Well, that to me is just one step forward, one step back. So you need to have a long-term vision as well. You need to have a long-term goal, right? But at the same time, if all you have is one long-term goal and you don't have little short-term goals, little milestones along the way, that road seems really far ahead. Like if your goal is to lose, let's say 200 pounds, that's a long-term goal. But if you're constantly focusing on that 200 pounds and that's your only goal, when you do hit that plateau or when you do get discouraged and you've only lost, let's say 10 pounds, you might be, you know what, I've got 190 or 90 pounds to go, or 190 pounds, you're looking at 200 pounds, whatever it is. I can't do it. You give up. So that's why I tell people, let's say your goal is to lose 100 pounds. Well, you celebrate those wins. Hey, you lost 10 pounds. Go get yourself a new outfit. Hey, you lost 20 pounds. Go to that movie you want to see. Hey, you've lost 50 pounds. Give yourself that three-day vacation that you wanted to go away with your wife on, right? So you set short-term goals and then you reward yourself with those goals because that will at least allow you to stay focused and motivated. Hey, every time I hit a milestone, I'm getting closer to my long-term goal, but I just accomplished my short-term goal. And that's why I tell people you should reward yourself. Don't reward yourself with food, but reward yourself in other ways. Like I said, you know, whether it be a social event, going to a movie, a new outfit, maybe a vacation, but don't reward yourself with food. And as I always say, you're not a dog. When dogs do something good, what do? We reward them with food. So don't compare yourself to a dog. Don't reward yourself with food. So I think it's important to set both short-term and long-term goals. But more importantly, I think it's important to set realistic goals and timely goals. So if you say, you know what, I want to lose 10 pounds, and I know realistically, I can lose those 10 pounds in 2 months. That does happen. I know there's people that can lose 3 pounds a week in an intelligent manner. Okay. And you set that goal. And once you accomplish it, and so, you know what, I set that goal. I still need to lose about 100 pounds, but I'm getting closer to that goal. And by setting those short-term goals, you'll be motivated to hit that long-term goal. And one more thing I want to add to this is that it's important to constantly reassess your goals because your goals might change over time. You know, I've worked with people in the past, and the only reason they started working with me was because they did want to transform their physique for a wedding or for a beach vacation. Like, I need to lose like 50 pounds. But then when they lost those 50 pounds, like, man, I look so much better if I added on some muscle. So now they want to add on 15 pounds. So the goal has now changed, and that's okay. But it's important to constantly reassess your goals and see where you're at because, you know, things change over time. And what you wanted at the beginning may have changed, and you need to be okay with that and say, okay, well, this is my new goal. Okay. And the last thing I should add to this too is constantly not only reassess goals, but set new goals. Because as you get closer to that long-term goal, you should have another goal in the back of your head. When I used to compete, my goal was to win a bodybuilding show. Okay, so once the bodybuilding show was over, whether I won it or lost it, the show was over. I need to have another goal ready to go. And usually that goal was, okay, this month I want to make, let's say, 50K in my business. So that's my next goal. Okay. And so the show is done, but now it's going, my focus is now towards my business. I want to make 50K this month. How am I going to do that? Okay. So I'm constantly setting goals. Okay. And it doesn't always have to be physique goals. It could be, like I said, it could be business goals. It could be financial goals. It could be relationship goals, but constantly set goals and make sure that you're checking in on those goals and reassessing those goals. That's my recommendation. Have both short-term and long-term goals. Anyway, that's it for this week's No Filter Q&A. This episode will be going up on Monday, October the 28th. As a reminder, if you have any questions related to your diet, training, or supplementation, please feel free to email me, nick@foreverfitperformance.com, or you can DM me on my Instagram at @fitcosgrove_. Thank you all for watching. Thank you guys for supporting my YouTube channel, my online coaching business, and my in-house coaching business. I truly do appreciate all the support, all the questions I get on my Instagram. I really like answering these questions. I love what I do, so I really do appreciate the constant feedback and support. Thank you all once again, and have a great week. Bye for now.